Tonight's species is found inshore, offshore, in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic. This fish can also be found around structure, ledges, and artificial reefs. We're talking all kinds of grouper here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts right now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
This is the Florida Insider Fishing Report, and we're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle, and of course, Captain Rick Murphy, hoping everyone had the best Easter weekend on the water catching. But this week, we are in search of grouper, right, Rick?
We certainly are, Brie, and you know the cool thing about grouper, it's been closed for a little while and it's getting ready to reopen, and guess what that means? That means there's a lot of fishes out there to be caught, to be ate, and to be harvested.
I'm looking forward to that. All right, before we start, let's say hi to Dave and his guest over at the CCA Workbench, who I know firsthand knows a little bit about catching some grouper. Who's that over there with you, Dave?
That's Mike Avenon. He's a grouper slayer out of Naples. So we got him coming here to tell me all the stuff that I don't know about groupers, which is a lot.
We got a lot of things to talk about. We got a lot to cover tonight.
The grouper king in the house.
I'm
Grouper
so
king,
excited.
baby.
All right, well, let's start this Grouper Fest off in the Yanmar ASB Keys region with Sarah Stanzik. Get us excited about the season, Sarah.
Hey everyone, here from the Yanmar ASB Keys region. Grouper season is just around the corner and everyone is definitely getting excited here in the Keys. Like Rick said, grouper can be found in the Keys both offshore and inshore, so there are many different ways to catch them, but some kind of live bait like a pinfish, grunt, or ballyhoo, cigar minnow are some grouper favorites, so definitely try to get you some good live bait. On the reef, you can troll for them too with like a diving plug, and that is also a fun way to catch them. One of my favorite ways is to troll with them with those little plugs. They're super fun to catch them that way if you don't have live bait, so other options. When using live bait, though, you want to fish for grouper on the bottom, and they are on some kind of structure like a wreck or reef. You want to start with an 8 to 16 ounce sinker with 15 feet of 80-pound leader, and a 9/0 circle hook is like a good setup for reef fishing for them. You're definitely going to see me out there on May 1st, which is opening day for them, except I'll be under the water using a spear gun, and that is how I play the grouper game. So
Down and dirty.
I'll chase them up from the bottom, and then all you people on the boats can catch them on the surface.
I love it. All right, what else you got for us? You done with groupers? Let's go ahead and talk about some permits, Sarah.
Yep, offshore. Also, we have a permit or spawning this time of year. They're one of my personal favorites to catch, lots of fun. So they spawn on the reef and wrecks right now off the Keys. Live crab is going to be the best bait you can get to use. A Penn 5500 with a 10-foot leader and 30-pound fluorocarbon and a half-ounce jig head is a good permit setup for those wrecks. So you're going to want to look for schools of those permits rising to the surface off the wrecks to spawn and then cast at them like your crab sink, and hopefully a permit will bite the crab. They pull really hard and they make good runs. They're in the jack family, so they are definitely fun to catch, and they will surely give you a good workout too. Here is a nice photo of a permit caught by Captain Dylan Bryan aboard the B&M.
All right, let's go inshore, girl.
Inshore, tarpon. You're going to hear me talk about tarpon for the next month or more because they are our peak season here for them. Keys is top location for catching them. They're definitely one of the most sought-after sport fish there is. Use live crab or mullet and fish near the bridges or channels where there's good water flow. Don't worry, I've talked a lot about bait and, spin fishers and all that stuff, but there's a lot of fly fishing people out there. I haven't forgotten about you. You're going to want to stake up your boat near a flat or in the channel and look for tarpon moving through those areas. Hire a guide. We have some of the best fly fishing guides probably in the world here in the Keys, and they definitely know how to put you on those tarpon if you want to catch them on fly. They're an exciting fish to catch, and they fight really hard. They make great jumps. Don't forget to bow down to the king when they jump and give them a little slack in your line so you don't accidentally break them off. Here is a photo of a tarpon caught with Captain Scott Brown with Push It Good Charters off of Sugarloaf Key.
Nice. Look at the kiddos, man. Love it. All right, one to go. What do you got for us inshore?
Bonefish, my other favorite. This is like the Grand Slam. We got the permit, tarpon, and bonefish in the Keys. My 3 favorite fish to catch. Bonefish, though, backcountry, have really made a great comeback in the last few years in the Keys. There seems to be a good, healthy population around. Most of them are on the smaller side, but we're not complaining. We like to see those small fish because they turn into the next generation of big fish. So I really love catching bonefish, and pound for pound, they are the hardest fighting fish in the world, if you ask me. You'd think a huge blue marlin or some monster fish took off with your little bait. The way they make runs and you hear the drag scream, and then when you get the fish to the boat, it's like a 4-pound or 5-pound bonefish, just a little fish, but it blows your mind how hard they fight, and they're just a great fish to catch, super fun. They love live shrimp. That's my favorite bait to use, and they are also fun and challenging to throw a fly at as well. So here's a bonefish caught by my friend Robin.
All right. Well, thank you so much for getting us started here on week 4. You're doing a great job, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspots from the Florida Keys region. She says that inshore tarpon season is in full swing now, and that they are one and many of the main species inshore anglers that are targeting. Use live crabs or mullet and look for the water movement near the bridges and channels. And then offshore, a couple of blue marlin were caught by charter boats in the last few days. Troll lures with ballyhoos, or if you're catching tunas offshore, always have a marlin rig ready so that you can pitch one in case that marlin follows that tuna up.
Always want to be ready.
You always got to be ready.
All right, now we've got a few tournaments in the Florida Keys to tell you about.
I bet you ready.
I am ready. We're starting with a grand prize up to $10,000 in cash is to go to the team catching the largest bull and cow dolphin fish combined at the Marathon Offshore Bull and Cow Tournament. Next, we have the Mother's Day Dolphin Tournament, which is a fundraiser that helps Habitat for Humanity in the Middle Keys. And then we have the Nick Sheehan Dolphin Rodeo, honoring the memory of the Florida Keys student through community scholarships. And lastly, the Faro Blanco Invitational Tarpon Tournament allows anglers to fish 3 nights with 3 different captains at 3 different bridges in the Keys. For more information on Keys tournaments, go to flakeys.com. All right, Rick, we're checking in with our next captain, Jeff Hageman, where you'll discover all kinds of grouper in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region. Jeff, give us their options, please.
Grouper can be found throughout my region. We have relatively shallow coast and lots of rock limestone bottom. Our grouper fishing is probably one of the best in the state, from inshore, near shore to offshore. You want to fish around flat limestone bottom with holes in it, rock piles, ledges, high relief structures, and wrecks. Pinfish and pigfish, which the grunt is called a pigfish, are some of the favorite live baits. As far as cut baits go, sardines and squid are some of those favorites. Artificial plugs, trolling them, like Sarah just said, works really good up here as well. And also butterfly jigs are becoming more and more popular. We've got gags, carbos, reds, scamp, yellow edge, snowies, kitty mitchells, warsaws, and Goliath grouper on my coast, and they can be caught from anywhere from depths of 4 feet all the way out to 700 plus feet of water. Heavy tackle's a must. High-speed reel is really good to use. 50 to 80 pound braid mainline, 100 to 150 pound leaders, fluorocarbon. Those light butterfly jigs, like I said, are getting more and more popular. A lot of guys are outfitting those smaller reels out with 80-pound braid. You can still get enough line out there. They're becoming more and more popular. It's a light combo to put in your hand, easy to fish with, and easy to dig with. Also, in the wintertime, we probably have a most unique kind of grouper fishing. We catch fish in 6 feet of water or less sometimes, up from Bayport to Wackasass on these shallow water rock piles. Spinning gear, heavy stuff like you'd use for tarpon fishing, throwing swimming plugs, poppers, and you can actually chum these fish to the top of the water like snook and have them popping. And we had a couple shallow water grouper fly rod pending records for gags this year in about 12 feet of water. So we got a couple of those going right now that are still pending. So a lot of excited stuff with grouper, and I've got a photo here of Alex Pearson with a beautiful kitty mitchell caught in 600 feet of water off the St. Pete with a butterfly jig.
Nice, good job there, Alex. All
That's
right.
a pretty fish.
Yeah, it is. Tell us what else you got, Hack.
Captain Rob Davenport, Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete, reports a good triggerfish bite right now. Has been good in the 120 to 170 foot range. Pet squid, 40-pound fluorocarbon leader with a 2-aught circle hook and a 4-ounce lead is his rig. And this has got a good photo here of a nice triggerfish. Nice West Coast triggerfish from Rob.
Nice. All right, let's go inshore, big fella.
Moving inshore, Captain Matt Klindecker of Stars and Stripes Charter out of Ozella Keys Marina in Ozella reports a good snook bite right now on the outer mangrove islands and mangrove points from Sand Key. During the outgoing tide, he's targeting potholes off the island, and he's throwing with the wind, getting as long a cast he can to keep hooking these fish. He's using a nose hook saltwater assassin in the Arkansas Shiner color, and he's hooking that in the very front of the bait with a 3/0 inline circle hook. And he's using 3 feet of 25-pound fluorocarbon emitter. And I got a photo here of Andy with one of those fish he's been catching out there in Ozello.
Nice.
Beautiful snook with Captain Matt.
All right. What else you got for us?
Captain Mike Manning of Action Fishing Charters out of Tarpon Springs report a great redfish bite around the Anclote River all the way up to Hudson. Mike's been fishing on schools from anywhere from 10 to 40 fish groups. He's looking for mullet on high water around mangrove points, oyster bars, cut baits, and artificial jerk baits have been working really well. Also, a free line sardine is hard for those fish to pass up. You can throw a little chum, you might be able to get them by a little better too. Get them fired up.
You're correct. All right, thank you so much. Good report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. He says inshore, snook on the outgoing and incoming tides on the beaches and passes, and then offshore, mangrove snapper biting 20 to 120 feet of water over any high relief structure. Use shrimp or small sardines for bait, free line with lots of chum. You know, there's an old saying, Brie, that if you chum, they will come.
That sounds old.
It is.
Okay. We've got our ALTA Equipment Northeast region coming up next. But first, we're seeing what group we're catching. Know how Dave and Mike are bestowing upon us your Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques at the CCA Workbench. I just want to get to Mike and Dave, Rick.
I got it.
Boy, you're so talking excited. A lot. Bestowing.
Bestowing, yes. Do you like that one?
It's a good one. Thanks. But he's going to bestow upon us everything he knows about jigs and baits and tackle for catching grouper.
Yeah, you know, a lot of different ways to catch them, and we're going to go over a couple of them tonight.
There you go.
There you have it. We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. SiriusXM Marine. Weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Real Legends. Everything you need to live life local. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Stiffy, innovators in shallow water performance. And Daiquiri Deck, food, drinks, friends.
Here we are back at the
You ready?
Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques, and we're going to talk a little bit about grouper fishing. You're the champion.
I guess. Yeah, some people say I'm pretty good at it.
You're pretty good at it. You do it all day. We're going to talk first a little bit about jigs, because that's what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to catch them, but the jig is one of, you know, it's getting really popular. And what's getting really popular is these little, what they call slow pitch or butterfly jigs.
We called them speed jigs.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, that's what we called them.
Yep.
Or vertical jigs. And I noticed that there's some short ones, and then we got some long ones here. And I know this, you know.
So I'm kind of more like into the shorter ones, just because it more resembles what we're using, what's naturally down there. In other words, squid, shrimp, maybe little snappers, grunts, and this and that. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of matching the hatch when you use these smaller jigs. At least that's my preference.
Is there any color preferences that you like?
I like something bright. I know a lot of people say it disappears when it gets down there, but I'm still kind of all about a little bit of color.
Well, shiny things still say silver. Shiny, but you know, reds go away, and pinks and stuff like that. They turn gray after 30 feet or 40 feet.
Certain times of the year there'll be certain types of bait around, right? Mm-hmm. Like through the winter time, it might be squid, it might be crabs that they're looking for. But then when you get into the spring, when you start getting these migrations or movements of sardines, cigar minnows, then maybe you want to start using some more blues and silvers, something that resembles that.
Is there a certain way you like to fish the jig?
Close to the bottom. And you know, one thing you always got to remember when you're fishing these jigs, whether it's a butterfly jig or in this case a grouper bucktail, the bite 9 times out of 10 occurs on the drop. So you always want to maintain contact with the jig as you're dropping it. You'll see guys, they'll flip that thing up and then drop the rod tip real quick, if they get the bite, they're never going to feel it. You always got to maintain contact with the jig as it's going down.
Just hold it the line between your fingers,
or just the rod tip. You know, a lot of these rods are very sensitive to the bite nowadays. You know, it's not like the old days where we had that great big fiberglass rod where you could swat it against.
I was going to ask you, when I was growing up, everybody wanted to have that 11-foot fiberglass with a Newell conventional on there to reel real fast to get them out of the hole.
Carried it down the dock.
Correct, but you say that this is the kind of thing you like to use, a 6500C pin.
Right. You know what changed grouper fishing? Braided line.
You can feel it. You can feel everything. It's very small.
Absolutely.
It makes the jig sink faster.
More power out of it. So when we first started grouper fishing offshore in 160, 170 feet of water with 60-pound mono, we probably lost over half our fish because of the stretch.
10 to 20%.
Yes. By the time you feel the bite, right, he's already in the rocks. And that's why guys would use that great big, long, heavy rod to try to give you some leverage to get out of there. Yep.
I got you. So you like the 8-ounce jig there?
Well, there's, you know, these jigs are fishing at what they call like a slow pitch, right? And when I talked about that, I guess fast pitch would be jigging it quickly to the surface.
Right.
Slow pitch is just kind of maintaining contact with the bottom, staying within 3-4 feet of the bottom, and you'll see those guys when they fish it. It's just a quick little tap. That's all there is to it.
Back in the day when the speed jigging started, after about the third or fourth drop, I was slow pitching.
That's right.
Because I could get it up about halfway. Okay, I'm going to drop it back down there. And then try to work. And it would work. It would still work. Because your bait's down there in the zone. You're maybe not catching amberjacks and stuff that'll follow it up.
Yep.
But you're still down in there.
And that's another thing to remember. You know, you might be catching some amberjacks while you're trying to get the groupers, but the groupers are there. You got to stick with it. This jig is just an old standby. It's just nothing more than a bucktail. That's the one I think you
brought the last time.
Yeah, man. No, these things have caught so many fish over the years. And it's really simple to dress up. You know, you put a little curly tail on it, something chartreuse like that.
Yeah, these are the FISHBITES Fight Clubs.
Yeah, and I mean,
add some scent to there.
That's just a no-brainer. That's a great way to find a few fish.
Well, if you're not going to be using the jigs, what's your go-to baits when you're going down the line as far as
I always say if all else fails, fire down a whole squid.
A whole squid.
You cannot miss with a whole squid. And then you can use pieces of squid. Say you're not getting the bite on the jig and you just want to fire them up a little bit, because sometimes grouper fishing, you don't get the bite right away, right? You got to work into it.
Right.
So you
got to weed your way through a bunch of other little stuff, or
when you're getting on a spot, right? You got to be on the uptide part of the spot. In other words, say this is our reef that we're looking at, right? Tide's running this way. You don't want to be anchored down there because all the fish are going to be up here. They're waiting for those shrimp and crabs and stuff to come off the sand onto the rock.
So you want to be up current of the spot.
Up current of the spot, right? So if you start off with little bits and pieces of squid, you're up here, the current's running that way. It's like a natural chum slick, and instead of catching the few fish that are here or here, you're catching all the fish on the reef at that point.
Because they start coming up, and as you start catching fish, they're puking stuff. And
crabs and shrimp and whatever they've been eating all night. Yeah, it all comes out.
Right. So, again, when you're bottom fishing, any kind of bottom fishing, it's important to stay on the spot.
Very.
So how do you go about doing that? What's your go-to for that?
You know what, I anchor, but with the new Rodan trolling motors that are coming out, it's changed the game for a lot of different guys. It's made it so much simpler to get where they need to be on the spot. They don't have to fool with an anchor and chain and all that stuff.
And everybody can find that spot now with the GPS and everything, and then they can stay on it.
It's
you don't have to learn how to anchor and all that.
Yep.
Have you seen any kind of degradation of the species or anything? Are you still seeing plenty?
So I'm in the southwest region, right, in the southern Gulf Coast, and our red grouper fishery is the strongest it's been in years. We have really seen a big push of fish this last year. Gags we haven't seen quite as much of, but our red grouper fishery is super strong.
How far out are you guys having to go out of Naples to get into the good water there?
In the summertime, you can catch those fish in as shallow as 35, 40 feet of water. In the wintertime, we usually fish around 100 feet of water. But as you go north, the species changes, right? You go up around Tampa, Sarasota, that area up there. Now you're talking about more gags than there are red groupers. And it's the opposite. Those guys will fish shallow in the wintertime.
Right. They come in,
those fish like that.
February, March, they're all way up in 10, 15, 20 feet of water.
And then you go up to Steinhatchee, right? Those fish, they're in super shallow water, and you can get in and throw in some of these little lip plugs and stuff.
Beauty. Well, man, thank you very much for coming and doing this.
No,
it makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. You're good at asking questions, Dave. Just as good as you are at talking.
That's right.
I love it.
I need to renegotiate the contract with Dave, because how many weeks a year does he steal money? He stole money
every week.
Let's doing this.
My wife says every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
All right, let's say hi to our ALTA Equipment Northeast Region Captain to see what our weekend catches. Tommy, what's going on up there?
Hey guys, man, you guys are having some fun in there tonight. I wish I was there.
Kinda.
Should be here, Tommy.
We have some great stuff going on. But, we're talking about grouper. And grouper, we have a great grouper fishery here in the Northeast region. They are definitely a favored offshore species in my region, and you can pretty much catch them year round. Although late winter into early summer, which is about right this time of year, is probably your best bet at a good grouper. And I know a lot of anglers are really excited about the opening of the season coming up here on May 1st. In my region, you can find the bigger grouper on offshore ledges, reefs, and wrecks. Now, this is, like I said, this is just about the time of year the grouper, they start showing up, they finish spawning to the north, they should be stacking up offshore in our region. Now, those groupers are gonna hold on just about any kind of structure, but a lot of times the smaller, the little tiny ledges, little pieces of live bottom, those are gonna hold some of the bigger grouper. The offshore grouper experts, you know what, those guys, they always tell me you've got a much better chance at a really big one if you find that smaller live bottom, because not everybody is gonna be fishing there. Now, you're probably not gonna mark a lot of those fish on your bottom machine, but if you find that small ledge or piece of live bottom, it's worth a drop to see if anybody is home. Now, the best baits, are gonna be live pinfish, grunts, sardines, and some of the guys really like to just put a whole big Boston mackerel on there. 100-pound test main line to a fish finder rig with about 10 foot of 150-pound fluorocarbon leader and a really stout Eagle Claw circle hook. That's gonna be the typical setup, but you're gonna wanna up your tackle size if you're fishing around some heavy structure, and of course you can downsize it a little bit if you're over some live bottom with not as many snags. Now, also offshore, guys, moving on to cobia. And I haven't talked a whole lot about cobia because our season's been hit or miss over the last couple of weeks with the weather being up and down. But you know what? There's still a few manta rays around, and the cobia are going to be following those rays. The wind has been up and the ocean has been up too, but hopefully we'll get another window soon so we can get out along the beach to look before they pass us by heading up to the north. Now, as we head into the weekend, or at least into next week, and the wind lays down a bit, there's going to be a good rip line at the inlets with that outgoing tide to look for both the manta rays and possibly some just free swimming cobia. Now, we caught a couple decent fish last week, and we were tossing that bigger saltwater assassin paddle tail, just throwing it right to the side of the manta rays, let them sink for a few seconds, and then jig them a few times. That color Rick is holding is an awesome color, that chartreuse. Most of the cobia I've seen this season have been under the rays, not really on top of them. So if you see a ray without fish, make a cast anyways, make a cast to the side of the ray. I've got a picture here. Austin Wolf, man, he sent me this picture of this lunker cobia that he caught off the back of one of those rays, and there's really not a whole lot more exciting than doing that. It's an awesome fish there, Austin. Cool. Now, moving inshore, guys, this weekend, hey, we've got one of my favorite tide for redfish, at least for this time of year. Of the last couple hours of that outgoing tide early in the morning, that's usually going to mean the redfish are going to be up shallow, feeding on small shrimp, small minnows, and those mullet. We've got a lot of mullet around, small mullet. And I'll have my anglers toss a small lure like that 4-inch Bass Assassin Sea Shad with a real light weedless hook. That is just one of my favorite rigs for all kinds of stuff. I talk about it all the time, especially when you're casting to some shallow fish, because it's small enough that you can present it without much splash, and it's not so intrusive that it spooks the fish. Fish have been really spooky lately, so that's a big deal. Now, my favorite color right now is the Mama's 14K. Rick, you know about that color?
I do.
Because it has a lot of flash that's going to help the fish see it in the murky water that we have right now throughout the region. Now, the redfish are feeding on finger mullet right now, so using a live mullet or a cut piece of mullet is also going to be a great way to go. Now, the inlets and bridges have been holding a good amount of bull reds as well. The usual have blue crab, live or cut mullet, or even cut ladyfish, or a live pinfish if you can use them, fished around the slack tides. Right there on the bottom is a great way to go for those bigger redfish. And I've got a redfish picture here. This is Savannah and Leah with a bright orange redfish that Savannah caught with me this past week in Palm Coast. How about the color of that redfish, man? That was a beautiful fish.
He looked like a Louisiana redfish, man.
It does.
All right.
So guys, we also inshore, we've got a great flounder bite happening right now. The inlets, they've been loaded up as well as the docks and any kind of structure really around those inlets. Now, the last of the outgoing and the first of the incoming tide has been the best bet. Net some of those finger mullet that I've been talking about. Use a fish finder rig with enough weight to make sure that your bait is holding the bottom. Now, I like to use a Kale hook with about 18 inches of 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader. Just slowly drag or bounce that rig along the bottom. Wait for that trademark flounder thump. Now make sure once you get bit, I say this every year, let the flounder chew on the bait for a little bit before you set that hook. And there's also quite a few flounder in the creeks, and you can use that same rig or go to the old standby, the 1/4 ounce jig with a finger mullet or mud minnow. Now the flounder, they're running about 2 to 4 pounds, and there's some bigger ones in the mix right now. And I've got one last picture. This is Jason and his son Harper with a nice flathead they caught with me last week. Harper is Rick's #1 fan. He told me, man, he does not miss a single episode of this show or your Sportsman's Adventures.
Look
Is
at smile.
that the little dude that I
Killing
talked
me.
to on the phone the other day when you told me to call?
That is, man. I've never, he's got a big smile in that picture, but I tell you, when you were talking to him on the phone, I've never seen somebody smile so big before. He was stoked.
I have that same effect on Brie, I want you to know, Tommy.
Yeah, I noticed that.
All right, we got to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast region, bud. We'll see you later. Thank you so much. Inshore, he says flounder at all the area inlets, fish the rocks, the docks, and the riprap with a finger mullet on a fish finder rig. And then offshore, great mixed bag of tunas, wahoos, mahis on the edge of the stream. The mahis are just now starting to show up. Hopefully that wind will lay down for the boys so they can go catch them.
Okay, we were talking about that cute little kid, and you're gonna go and bring me into it.
Because you're just like into everything.
That made me
It's just
smile.
part of your deal.
Hey, he was missing teeth and you're missing hair. That's why you guys get along so
Yes,
well. We'll go
exactly.
with that. Yeah. All right, so you're going to have to join Rick and Dave at the FISHBITES Trading Post in St. Augustine, April 23rd, this weekend. There will be food, music, new product showcases, one-of-a-kind seminars from Rick and Dave. What more could you want? Am I right? Am I wrong?
You're right.
I'm right.
You know
I'm
what we're
always
going
right.
to do is Dave and I are going to talk about actually grouper fishing. One of our seminars is going to be
Perfect timing.
using the big FISHBITES curly tail chunk bait that he was showing there.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is that we're going to have to talk for, instead of 5 minutes like he and Mike did, we're going to talk for 30 minutes. So
I
Dave
feel
better
like-
bring all his A game.
I feel like y'all be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're pulling up some grouper in the GARMIN Panhandle and R&R Tackle Southeast region next. So make sure you stay hooked right here on the Florida
Insider
Fishing
Report.
Such a
right.
team.
Yeah.
Such a team.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. R&R Tackle, from our tackle box to yours. Florida Coast Equipment, your local Kubota dealer. Coast to coast, we've got you covered. And GARMIN, plot your paradise.
YANMAR.
Welcome back, anglers. We're headed up to the GARMIN Panhandle region, which is definitely set up perfectly for some grouper action. So let's get with Captain Pat Deneen on the details. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Brie. I tell you what, the Panhandle region, our waters out here get deep relatively quickly, especially compared to like off of Tampa and whatnot. Grouper fishing is very popular. Most are caught in the Gulf. Well, occasionally they're caught in the bays, particularly Pensacola Bay. You know, as I think everybody's probably said, all are bottom structure oriented, whether it's natural or artificial bottom. And for the most part, live or dead baits fish right on or just off the bottom is the way to target them. Pinfish, pogies, large herrings are prime live baits, while bonita strips and octopus are really good dead baits. And a dead octopus sectioned out in 2 or 3 pieces, where you get a piece of the head and 2 or 3 of the legs, it stays on the hook really well. It has a lot of action. It's an incredible and deadly big grouper bait. Another technique is a big bucktail jig sweetened with a strip bait, a butterfly jig, or a big silver crocodile spoon bounced just off the bottom. In fact, that spoon is particularly effective for scamping, and that's really one of the tastiest groupers, and I love eating scamp. Currently, gag groupers are closed, opening up at the end of May. while all the other groupers are open, with the exception of Goliath, of course. But grouper fishing really popular up here. Moving on, I mentioned last week that the tuna fishing has been good, and we had some good weather this past weekend. It's been a bit breezy this midweek, but the guys going out there are taking advantage of it. The tunas and billfish are being caught at the rigs and near the spur fads. I feel the best way to target the tunas is live baiting or chunking, and their tunas are usually going to be up current of the structure, either up current of the fad or up current of the rigs. If they're breaking on top, slow troll hardtails or herrings on a light leader and cast poppers on spinning tackle. If you're marking them deep, chunking can bring them up, or you can troll your live bait, well behind a downrigger ball or a trolling lead. And I mentioned last week that this is the time of the year that we do encounter bluefin tuna, and they are usually hooked while guys are live baiting for blue marlins, either using a blackfin tuna or skipjack tuna for bait. And there's a photo of an absolute giant caught this past weekend on the No Name based out of Odessa. And the No Name is the name of the boat. But this monster weighed 832 pounds, took over 5 hours to land. It's a pending Florida record, and that is one nice catch right there.
That's some yummy stuff right there, bub. Oh my goodness.
Rick, I'm telling you.
All right, let's go inshore. Dang, what a big tuna.
Hey, inshore, Rick, the pompano fishing continues to be strong along the Gulf front beaches, throughout the whole region, from Fort Pickens to Cape San Blas. Some of the bait shops have live fleas, sand fleas. Many carry frozen sand fleas, but fresh caught is usually the best. And so a little bit of effort with the sand flea rake and the surf wash provides plenty of bait. And if you're raking sand fleas and catching sand fleas, you're in a good spot to catch the pompanos. Bait your 2-hook rigs with a flea and a piece of orange or pink fish bite in shrimp or flea flavor. If you prefer to jig fish, you can also tip your jig with a flea or fish bite for added attraction. This past week, especially this weekend, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we've had a north wind, perfect for beach fishing off the whole region. The winds are now coming out of the easterly, so it's really good for the eastern part of the section over at Panama City, Cape San Blas. And while you're surf fishing for pompano, don't be surprised to find the redfish as well. They're in there. And speaking of redfish, they've been good on the flats and in the inlet channels. The inlet fish are mainly overslot, and they're best on the outgoing tides. You want to fish a live bait on the bottom around the bridge pilings or jetties. And the redfish on the flats are mainly the splot fish or the underslot fish. You're going to find them primarily on patchy sandgrass flats in 1 foot to 3 foot of water. Cast gold spoons, soft plastics, either rigged on a worm hook or a light jig head, and also cast small topwater baits. And if the visibility is poor, fan cast ahead of where your boat is traveling towards, and focus on those sand holes or the grass edges, because they like to lay up right in those little holes or right on the edge of the sand and grass margin.
All right, Pat Tar, good report from the GARMIN Panhandle region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots. Pat says that we're going to go cobia fishing offshore are actually starting to show up, and some good ones too. Sight fish the outer bar and cast live baits or jigs to those cobias. And then inshore, pompano fishing remains hot along the Gulf front beaches using sand fleas or maybe some fish bites, Brie.
That tuna though. Oh my Lord.
Can you imagine 5 hours of...
No. I think I'd pass out and then cry and then eat it.
Then wake up and then cry some more.
And then cry some more and just cry for all sorts of reasons. My emotions would just be roller coastery.
I wouldn't do anything for 5 hours. Nothing.
Moving on. In the R&R Tackle Southeast region, there's lots of grouper just waiting to be caught. So let's up our chances by listening in with Captain Jimbo Thomas.
Hey, Brie.
Hi.
Hey, Rick and Dave. We fought a blue marlin once for 6 hours and we lost them. So it happens.
Yo, man.
But, yep. Talking about grouper, they've been left alone for the last 4 months, so they should be hungry when the season opens on May 1st. That's about a week and a half away. Now, the main grouper species that we target here in the Southeast region are black, gag, and red groupers. And there's a few different ways we can go about catching those groupers. One of the most productive methods, and one of my favorites, is to troll for them. Deep diving plugs work great. You can troll them over the top of the reef in anywhere from 15 to 50 feet of water. and any big lip deep diving lure will do the job, but it doesn't matter what color, in my opinion. You can also fish a rig ballyhoo behind a planer. That'll get your bait down into the grouper strike zone. And the best trolling speeds are 3 to 5 knots. And you want to use some heavy tackle, medium to heavy tackle. I've been using a Pin 30 International loaded with 50-pound tests. So it's something big enough to haul those groupers out of the bottom when they do bite. And when they do bite, you want to keep that boat moving to try and keep them out of the reef. You can also drift over good reef structure, wrecks, and ledges, and anywhere from the reef on out to 250 feet of water. It's a great way to target those groupers. You want to use live bait. A pinfish works good, blue runner, grunts, speedos, or you can drop a butterfly jig or a deep jig on that same structure. And also that basic rig for the live bait, or the basic rig for the live bait, is a long 80 to 100-pound mono leader and an 8/0 to 10/0 circle hook, depending on what size bait you have, and you want to use enough lead to hold the bottom. You can also anchor over the same bottom structure. That's a great way to get those shy groupers. And you use that same long leader with the live or cut bait, and you can let that bait sit right on the bottom, and that'll get them any weary groupers to bite. Now, most of the groupers that come out of the deep water are generally in the 15 to 20-pound range, and we do get them bigger. And on the reef, they've been mixed sizes from sublegal on up. Now, staying offshore, fishing along the edge of the Gulf Stream last few days, we've been catching a variety of fish, mainly sailfish, blackfin tunas, kingfish, and the occasional mahi. And with this hard east wind that we've had the last couple of days and it's supposed to persist, we might be seeing some more mahis. Now, some of the fish are being caught on the troll, but the bulk of the bites have been on live baits fished under the kite or on the drift. Want to fish with live goggle-eyed herrings or pilchers? Best depths have been anywhere from 90 to 300 feet of water. And it's also a good idea to put a live bait down deep or at least near the bottom. You got a shot at a mutton snapper or even a cobia. Now, I got a photo here. This is an 18-pound king that ate a live bait in 100 feet of water off Government Cut, caught aboard the Thomas Flyer by John Doyle. We had a few other nice kings that day, and they've been biting still.
That's nice.
Now, moving inshore, largemouth bass fish has been picking up in the Everglades and also in the lakes and the urban canals of the region. So there's fairly low water levels in the glades that has the fish pushed off the flats, mainly into the deeper holes in the canals. Largemouth bass, they've been eating shiners, crankbaits, and artificial worms early in the mornings and then late in the afternoons. The bulk of those largemouths are going to be on the small side, but you can catch quite a few of them. And then in the lakes and canals throughout the region, along with those largemouths, the peacock bass, they've been biting really good. Key to catching those peacocks is to find some clear water, and they're going to bite best right in the middle of the day. First choice of bait for a peacock's a live minnow or shiner, along with deep running crankbaits and soft plastics in dark colors. Then back out to the saltwater, tarpon fishing has been pretty good, especially in the inlets, and they've been also holding on the bridges and the lit docks of the ICW. And the inlets, look for the marks on the fish finder, or if you can spot the fish rolling near the inlet mouths. Also along the adjacent beaches on both the north and south sides of the jetties. Both the incoming and outgoing tides have been good early in the morning and then late in the afternoons into the evenings. Big live shrimp or a live crab is one of your best baits right now. Fish about a 6/0, 7/0 circle hook, 60 to 80-pound monofluoro leader. Then around the bridges and docks, look for those same tarpon feeding along the shadow lines in the evening on the outgoing tide. Big shrimps, still a great bait along the bridges, or a crab or live mullet. Or you can cast swimming plugs. You want to work them from the shadow lines on out. And a lot of these tarpons, especially in the inlet, they've been up to 100, 120 pounds.
So Jimbo, I got a question for you. You know, a lot of guys think that the tarpon, they'll leave the cut. Certainly Government Cut is a staging area for the tarpon during the wintertime because of the outgoing tide and all the shrimp flowing out of the bay. My point is that, you know, you don't always see those fish in shallow swimming down to the Florida Keys this time of year. Do you see a bunch offshore, especially when you're catching those kingfish in that 60 to 80 feet of water?
No, we don't. It's pretty rare that we see them out there. But around the mouths of the inlet, the shrimp run in the last few years has been getting later and later into the year, so it's holding those tarpon around the mouths of the inlets later and later. So there's still plenty of them, and those shrimp are also coming through the bridges as well. So that's why you're going to look for those tarpon around the bridges. But offshore or out on the reef in the deeper water, it's pretty rare, at least in my experience, that I've seen them out there.
All right, thanks for clearing that up for me. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the What Are We Smoking Fish dip from the southeast region. He says inshore drift live shrimp or crabs around the bridges, shadow lines, and inlets for the evening tarpon. And then offshore, drift or kite fish with live baits in 90 to 300 feet of water for sailfish, kingfish, blackfin, tunas, and occasional mahi.
So I have a confession.
Yes?
Last week when you handed me the What Are We Smoking Mahi fish dip,
Yes, ma'am.
I ate all of it on the way home.
You didn't
It was
share.
so good. I didn't share with anybody. I did too. Oh, good. So
Dave,
good,
you
right?
did too?
Yeah.
I ate the
It was a little
wahoo.
snacky.
I ate the
All right,
wahoo.
the StarTron Central West
And
region.
the producer in my ear says she ate hers
Spilling
all too.
its grouper catching secrets.
3 for 3.
Next, but first, Dave is giving us the Taco Marine new product show at the CCA workbench with no fish dip.
No. But if you're going to hook a big giant bluefin tuna in the Gulf of Mexico,
Celebración.
you're going to need a giant bottle of Cuervo
Yeah.
to get you through that 5 hours of crushing that thing. Yeah, that's. I hope he was using
I
at
was
least
gonna say-
130 or something.
A celebration afterwards, but you can drink one, I guess. Okay. We'll be back.
That's a long time.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by ALTA Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Fenwick, feel everything. Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin. Best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench. Time for the Taco Marine Troll the Edge new product segment. And guess what? We certainly were talking about trolling some.
They were trolling the edge. They were way out there when they caught that bugger.
Oh, yeah, they were.
They were in deep water. I guess that's why it took so long.
They're going to need a celebration drink.
Correct. And I would use that Jose Cuervo right there. That's the Tradicional Cristalino. I can't even say it. Cristalino?
That's fine.
Is that close enough?
Man, you asking the wrong
100%
guy.
blue agave tequila. It's a blend of the tequila reposado and Reserva de Familia. I can't speak Spanish, but it's got extra age on it, and I told you the other day it's got a little quince flavor to it, which is it's kind of a citrusy apple type thing, and it's filtered really heavily to make it a good smooth tequila, which some tequilas taste like scotch, but this is kind of a little smoother, little vanilla spice action going on in it.
So Dave, you know how tequila got started. So in 1795, Jose Cuervo went to the King of Spain and asked him if he could start this, and they called it a concession back
Correct.
then.
This is the 10th generation of them doing that.
#1 tequila seller in the world and the oldest tequila in the world.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
So,
very good stuff.
Yeah.
Go to Cuervo.com, check it out.
all right, we're gonna do
40% alcohol by volume.
Woo!
That's plenty,
Yes,
Plenty.
And with Cinco de Mayo coming, you're gonna need some of that.
That's correct. Next, we got the Chapo saltwater. This is a topwater bait. It makes a lot of noise. That little cupped tail propeller back there. It's got a really wide surface area to it. It really makes a heck of a noise. Throws water everywhere. All you got to do is chunk it out and reel it back to you.
Yeah.
Plop, 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 plop. Roll that thing by a big log or any kind of cover. And if you like topwater plugs, which who doesn't?
Right.
It produces
You think
tremendous.
a snakehead would eat this, Dave?
I think he would think it was a frog for sure. I
I'm
think
gonna
a
try
snakehead
it.
would surely eat those.
I'm gonna try it.
I would troll him. I would throw it and push it right down the shore, as close to the shore as you can,
Burn
just like you would with a frog.
All right.
And do it the same thing.
I'm gonna
It's got
try it.
3X anti-rust fusion hooks on there. And like I said, it swims straight as an arrow. It's finely tuned. Go to berkeley-fishing.com to get yourself one of those Choppos.
Yes, sir. It comes in 2 sizes, by the way.
Yeah, next we got the FISHBITES Fight Club, the 6-inch grub. We were talking about this during the grouper segment. You put this thing on any jig head, and you can catch flounders with these things, believe it or not. You catch big flounders with them. Grouper, snapper, anything. It comes in 5 different colors: the smackdown, the counterpunch, the hammer fist, the TKO, and the white knuckle. And they all have the FISHBITES scent in there. Does it still taste like mashed taters?
Yeah, baby.
Well, there you go.
Nothing.
No stink.
The quality control of their mashed potatoes is off the chain.
There you go. It doesn't stink on your hands or anything. Those things weigh about an ounce. You put them on a 4 or 5 ounce bucktail jig, and you can catch some big fish down there on the bottom.
And where do we go?
Fishbites.com.
Or they can come to the trading post this week.
Correct.
All right.
We're going to be there.
And we'll have lots of deals on FISHBITES.
Next, we got the TH Marine handheld LED spotlight. This is a cool little light here. It's waterproof up to 1 meter. It'll float. It's got 140 to 260 lumens with the 3 different light modes there. The high will last for 12 hours. The low will last for like 25 hours. And there's an SOS on there too. You hit it 3 times, it'll do the SOS signal, and it'll do that for 36 hours on you.
Oh boy.
So you have plenty of time. It's got the ergonomic little handle grip there, easy to use. It's got a great little hands-free stand right here.
Yep.
You can set it up and don't have to have it in your hand and point it at what you want to light. And comes with three batteries, AA batteries.
I'll give you a little personal secret.
Oh, let's hear it.
I got a new ditch bag. I think I'm going to put this in
That would
there.
be a good idea. Everybody should have a ditch bag.
You just never know when you
ACR.
might have to SOS your SOS.
ACR makes some really great. Yes, I understand.
Okay.
ACR makes some really good ditch bags. Ditch bags you should pick out.
All right, there
So
we
go
go.
to thmarine.com to get you one of these cool little handheld LED lights.
All right, we'll do that. All right, Brie.
All right. I don't know what was more cringeworthy, watching you lick your FISHBITES fingers or Dave speaking Spanish.
Yeah, that was.
But it was pretty fun over here. It was pretty fun.
Can you tell that she's cleansing tonight, Dave? She's mean as a fiery hornet.
I am just giving it right back to you guys. That's all.
She's just mean as a hornet.
I am not. The diversity for catching grouper in the STARTRON Central West region is second to none. So let's hear what Captain Jeff Page has to say about reeling them in. Go for it, Jeff.
Well, in the STARTRON Central West region, our grouper fishery is our mainstay for our offshore captains, charter and private. And it's a year-round thing, depending on what time of year it is, you guys. Sometimes you'll be up in the bay trolling lip plugs for them, but for the most part, you're out in the Gulf, bottom fishing. Jimbo Thomas really gave a great report on it. And, there's a couple different standard bottom rigs, but the key with leads is know your current, know your depth, and don't over lead. You always want just enough lead to keep it on the bottom, be it a live bait or a frozen sardine. Both work real well here, and you just want to be in that right depth of water where those fish are holding. In the cooler months, they can be in as close as 30, 40 feet of water. In the middle of the summer, they're going to be out past 100 feet. The key is finding those smaller areas of hard bottom or ledges or rock piles or even artificial reefs. They're all going to hold your groupers. And our top 3 that most of your avid anglers can get to are your red grouper, your gag grouper, and then, of course, your big Goliath groupers. The rest of them, we have a variety of them, but they're way out, 150, 200 feet of water on out. So I'm just going to report on the ones that everybody can get to. In the fall, starting in September, you can troll lip plugs up in the Skyway and also up in Charlotte Harbor in your deeper water over structure and the Skyway ship channel all the way up into Port of Tampa. And you're going to want to find that depth change where it'll go from 30, 40 feet up to 12 to 20 feet. And that's where you want to run that lip plug and have the depth according to where you're fishing. Like a good one to start with is a 16-foot diver. And then if it doesn't seem like it's getting down far enough, move up to a 25. And you're going to lose some plugs, but you're going to catch some nice fish. Got a couple photos tonight. First one of the flying Hawaiian, Kaylin Olayer, down out of Stump Pass Marina with a nice gag. And the second one was with a happy client with a big red fire truck, red grouper, with Tim No of Offshore Ventures. Staying offshore, kingfishing is still really strong, even though, Rick, I believe a lot of the fish have already gone by, headed up north to the Panhandle. But the problem's been we've had these east winds that are just make it so rough once you get more than a few miles offshore. It's been tough getting out there. But the guys that are getting out there in that 10, 12, 13-mile range are finding some really nice kingfish and lots of big bait schools. They're trolling lip plugs just like they troll for the groupers, but maybe not quite as deep. And then they're also dragging blue runners and big thread fins around, and then also throwing out flat lines while they're bottom fishing. So a lot of different ways they're getting them. And I've got a photo tonight of Captain Tyler, owner of Chasing Tails Charters out of Marina Jacks, with a nice king with his two girls. And then we're going to move inshore. Tarpon fishing is starting to make an impact in our region, you guys. And it's really down south, except for the Skyway Bridge again. But down south in the harbor, they've shown up in the pass as well as up in the harbor. Last week they were over on the east side off Alligator Creek. This week I hear they're more around Matlacha Pass, and then also up in Pine Island, and then up off the Skyway Bridge on the big incoming tides. They've been freelining live or dead threadfin back with the current towards the fenders, towards the bumpers, and hooking up nice tarpons. Once that water temperature gets up over 80, look for the fish all over the beaches. Got a nice tarpon photo tonight of a happy client with our good friend Bo Johnson of Tenacity Charters out of Boca Grande. And my last species is the snook, and he still is our number one guy on the inshore bite, Rick, consistently in week in and week out. And right now we've got these big high tides in the afternoon. You can get off of work at 4 or 5 o'clock and get out and go wade or live bait around the oyster bars, Terracea, Palmasola, or North Sarasota Bay. And then down south, Bull and Turtle Bay, as well as Whiddens Creek, have all had really good snook action. And the key has been setting up properly to play that wind and tide. And the winds have been strong. Live pilchards or pinfish. And then if you're going to throw a plug, it's tough to beat that Chrome Berkeley stick shad 110 in the Chrome pattern or a Jaywalker Chrome 120. And those two will get the job done on the big snook. And my last photo is some happy clients that have been fishing with me probably for 20 years. That's Heath, his wife Carrie Ann, and their son Cade Meyer of Wisconsin with a couple really nice snooks.
All right, thank you so much, Captain Page. We appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots. Captain Page says that inshore there are good numbers of tarpon on the Skyway Bridge. Spot lock your Rodan, up current of the pylons, and then free line live thread fins towards the pylons. And then offshore, nice red groupers holding on the hard bottom areas off of Sarasota north to St. Pete, and 110 to 130 feet of water used. Live pinfish or frozen sardines on a standard bottom rig is going to get the job done.
All right, listen up, Floridians. We have big CCA news. CCA, Florida Star, and ALTA Equipment Company have joined forces to create a super redfish division. I wanted you to echo me. In addition to the multiple divisions and $500,000 worth of prizes, one tagged redfish will be worth $50,000 cash.
That's a
if
lot of
you
dough.
would like a chance at the super redfish loot, it all starts with becoming a CCA member and being registered, of course. For more information and details, head to ccaflstar.com. All right, stay tight and stay hooked because we're reeling in the Casa Vieja Southwest and FishBites East region report next. And remember to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy.
Yeah.
Boom.
Dang.
Damn. Dang.
Got it. Get a breath, baby.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by STARTRON. Start, run, and store with STARTRON. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Fenwick, feel everything. Strike Zone Fishing. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And YANMAR ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
Okay, Casa Vieja Southwest anglers, wait until you see the grouper being pulled up in your region. They're huge! And Captain Ronnie Houston is telling us how to get on them. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, like Brie, it's always a pleasure being here. And like always, listening to some of the key points I mentioned in my reports will equal success. Grouper, the most common on our area are the gags and the red, and they can be caught year-round and vary in depth. Now, structure is going to be essential, whether it's wrecks, ledges, and hard bottom. But the most important thing out of all this is putting in the time. The more time you put in, the better you're going to become. Also, do not overfish areas you find. Always continue to seek out new areas. Now, once you figure that out, you can jump from spot to spot by just grabbing a few fish from each area until you work all the areas to get your limits. Another point is having your bait on the bottom. That's really important. And also having a variety of weights is important because depending on the conditions, wind and current, you're probably going to have to vary your weight, 6 to 10 ounces. But you can also drift to find fish. It's a great technique. And probably most important, the simple baits you're going to need are cut herring, squid, sardines, but also having live pinfish and grunts available in case the fish are picky is also important. And nothing beats an old school white bucktail with squid. And I got a prime example. This is a quality fish that have been caught here in the last couple weeks with Capt Mike Avedon. And another good point I'm going to give you is when you go with a guide and you want to do this offshore stuff to catch the groupers, always observe what the guide is doing. That's going to be key. Don't worry about keying in on his GPS numbers. Just watch the pattern he's working. It's going to help you become successful. Second on the offshore side is going to be the African pompanos. Market of Fort Myers Beach, your depths right now are going to be 90 to 130 feet of water according to Captain Mike. Now, wrecks and hard bottom are going to also be your key, and he is telling me live pilchers on the bottom have been working great in some of these areas. Now, also in these areas, there have been some big kings in these areas, so the best baits while fishing on the bottom for the pompanos have been flat lining or float lining with live pilchards, cigar minnows, or thread fins. While you're fishing for these pompanos on the bottom, you might get lucky and catch you a big king. And I got a prime example of some pompanos that were also recently caught. Inshore, it's going to be the redfish. It's been good throughout the region. Estero Bay on the higher stages of the tide along the east wall. Bull and Turtle Bay also on the higher stages of the tide along the mangroves. Important moving water, roaming mullet, and south to Jack Daniels Key to Bird Key. Your main tides are going to be mid-incoming to the top of the high along the mangrove shorelines with deadwood, oysters, and roaming mullet. All three areas, live pilchards, cut mullet, ladyfish, live pinfish, as well as soft plastic shrimp and paddle tails in root beer, golden brim, new penny, along with top-the-water walk-the-dog lures. They got a prime example of a nice oversized redfish caught down in the Everglades while fishing with Captain Derek Daffin. Last species is going to be the tarpon. When it goes south from Pavilion Key to Gordon's Pass, we don't have a big blow that stirs up these waters. Passes, outer Gulf points, tide lines, and edges, especially on low water, 6 to 10 foot. There have been some fish on the nearshore wrecks. No rain right near. Now the water's relatively clear. It's calm. Also look for fish right off the beach. Now for those fish you get into that are lazy, that won't eat live baits, cut mullet or ladyfish on the bottom, as well as live threadfins, crabs, pilchards, pinfish, free-lined or under a quart. And I got a prime example of a tarpon release just recently released while fishing with Captain Joe Casaro down in the Everglades. If you're really serious about catching some of these species, we've been spoon feeding you for about 17 years. Take these tips serious. Get out and catch you some fish.
Good job, Ronnie. We appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Catty Can hotspots From the CASA VIEJA Southwest region inshore, snook, nighttime bite in the intercoastal docks and seawalls of Marco, Naples, Estero, using live shrimp or artificial shrimp. Moving water is vital. And then offshore, mangrove snappers, Fort Myers Beach to Stump Pass, wrecks and ledges in 85 to 115 feet of water. Use live shrimp or pilchard on a knocker rig, Brie.
Spoon feeding you all these tips.
He's been there since day one, just like
I know
Dave
he has. And what, he's
Page.
never missed a show, right? Is what
Never.
you said? Never.
Never missed a show.
Very interesting. Don't worry about those GPS numbers. Just catch those fish. Watch a guide, right?
That's it.
That's it. All right, it's time for the CCA Florida Homestead Banquet, May 19th at the Homestead Miami Speedway. In addition to great food, a silent auction, and tons of fun, special guests Ron McGill and Jimmy Johnson will be in attendance. So get your tickets. Head to ccaflorida.org. That's going to be a fun time.
Yes.
I think I might show up to that.
Come on.
Come on, let's go. We'll
right.
have fun.
All right.
All right, in the Fish Bites East region, we're focusing on the dolphin bite because I don't know if you've noticed, we've been having heavy southeasterly winds all week, which is pushing a lot of the dolphin to our side of the Gulf Stream, and Captain Mike Holliday is telling us how we're hooking them. Go for it, Mike.
Yep, that's it, Brie. Black and gag grouper season doesn't open for another couple weeks. The dolphin bite's been pretty good, so I just figured we ought to talk about that.
Let's go.
And these strong southeasterly winds are what push the dolphin into my region. They push them from the eastern side of the Gulf Stream onto the western side, over towards Florida, and we're finally starting to see some of the larger fish move through the area. The bite isn't red hot, but it certainly picked up. The best stuff's in 300 to 500 feet of water off Palm Beach, and also in 100 to 250 feet of water from Stewart on up to about Fort Pierce. A lot of the larger dolphin are coming under diving frigate birds out in open water, while the majority of schoolie fish are coming on the weed lines and on the color changes in a little bit shallower, like 70 to 210 feet of water. The fish are scattered. So, you just want to cover water. You control ballyhoo or strip baits with a pink or a green skirt. That'll let you cover a lot of water. The other option is to run and gun, looking for the birds or floating objects and then sliding up to them and pitching out a live bait. You always want to have a pitch bait ready this time of the year for any dolphin that you encounter, either swimming by the boat or that you may have to chase and get up to and throw a bait to. Average dolphin in my region right now is 8 to 15 pounds. I got a photo. That's Michael Long with one of the better dolphin I've seen so far this spring. He caught that fish in 150 feet of water off Jensen Beach, and that fish ate a trolled ballyhoo. The other bite we got going after last weekend's full moon, the kingfish bite is back on during the daytime, with fish being caught from the Lake Worth Pier all the way up to Fort Pierce. With these heavy southeast winds, the bait's starting to stack up along the beaches and also along the nearshore reefs and wrecks. So places like the Loran Tower Ledge, the reef off Jupiter in 90 to 120 feet of water, the 6 and the 8 mile reefs, and the offshore bar just south of Fort Pierce, those spots are all producing kingfish right now. The majority of anglers targeting the kings are fishing live baits, either sardines, thread fins, goggle eyes, or blue runners. The large kings, if you're looking for those big smokers, a 1 pound blue runner, a small bluefish, or a big mullet will work on them. You can drift or slow troll them on a standard double hook stinger rig, or you can work the Palm Beach triple hook monofilament rig. Both of those work really well. The average king right now is like 12 to 30 pounds with fish to 40 pounds or more in the mix. I have a photo. That's Charlotte Meredith. She caught that nice king on the beach out of Kingfish Hole off Hope Sound, and that fish ate a live threadfin.
All right, let's go inshore, bub.
Well, the snook bite's been really inconsistent, but what it lacks in numbers and in slot fish, it's making up with a lot of big over slot fish. There's still a good push of mullet in the St. Lucie and in the Loxahatchee River, and the Indian River seeing a lot of pilchards and thread fins and these big schools of sand perch. When that gets going, the best stuff is going to be around the seawalls, up in the rivers during the daytime, and at the bridges like the Roosevelt Bridge in Stewart, the Palm City Bridge, the Jensen Beach Causeway, and the A1A Bridge in Jupiter. Those bites are going to be at night. Up in Fort Pierce, the Turner Basin, and the inlet area, they're seeing better concentrations of fish pretty much every day, but the best bite there is at night as well. In the rivers, you want to work a black and gold topwater plug or prop bait or a popper or a die dapper. Black and gold are the colors. Throw them on the seawalls or along the mangrove shorelines at first light. As the sun gets up, pitch a live mullet on the seawalls. If you're catching big jack crevalles, you're in the right area. They're all in there feeding on the mullet. Around the bridges, an R&R flare hawk or a live croaker is going to be the top baits. I got a photo of a nice snook. That's Captain Jimmy Walden of Jensen Beach. He caught this nice snook on a mullet head on the bottom, and that fish was released because it was over slop. The other bite we got going, it's mid-April, so the first push of tarpon are starting to move into the region. So places like Big Mud Creek near the St. Lucie power plant, and pretty much all the inlets, and as well in the inlets as well as on the north and south side of the inlets, are starting to see some fish. And then the juvenile fish are up in the north and south forks of the St. Lucie River and also up in the Loxahatchee River. For those arbitrarily rolling fish up in the river, you can throw a Houdini or a Mama's 14K saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad. You throw those at the rolling fish while you put out live mullet behind the boat and try to maneuver them in front of any fish that you see rolling. You'll get half on the lures, you'll get half on the live bait. Around the inlets, an 8 to 12-inch live mullet's going to get the bite. And that you want to go at dawn or dusk because that's when you're going to have a lot less boat traffic and the fish are going to be more active. Average tarpon region is going to be like 50 to 100 pounds. Those juveniles are more like 20 to 30 pounds.
These cooler mornings with the low barometric pressure and the low humidity, Mike, how about the bass bite? How's it doing?
Man, it's on fire on Okeechobee. It's kind of transitioning. It's getting towards that summer thing. Just because it's heating up during the day. It's been beautiful in the morning. The morning bite has been the hot bite by far. There's been a lot of fish in the boat trails around Clewiston. Start your day throwing white spinner baits or small topwater plugs or swim baits in those boat trails for those schooling bass. A lot of them are fishing on shads. I was talking to Captain Nathan Shellen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com. He said the water levels are down a bit, so the best action right now in the lake is in the Kissimmee grass or around the patches of hydrilla using either a Bass Assassin Elite Shiner in the June bug color or a smoke and shad colored Bass Assassin Vapor Shad. And what you want to really realize is the bass are way up in the grass, so you can flip the edges with a creature bait or work the potholes with a swim bait or a frog. The best action's on the northwestern side of the lake from Cochran's Pass all the way up to the Kissimmee River. If you find those peppergrass beds in those areas, you'll find the fish. Average bass on Okeechobee is 1 to 3 pounds, but they're still catching those big, 7-8 pounders. So, it hasn't moved to this full summer transition. There's still some big fat fish on the lake right now.
All right, bud, thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the T&H Marine hotspots from the East region. Mike says that, let's see what Mike says. Let me get my report here.
Big fat
He
fish
says
is what
pompano, whiting, croakers in the surf off of South Hutchinson Island, fish bites, easy fleas, sand fleas, and shrimp. And then offshore, cobias on the Halsey and Amazon wrecks, chartreuse or pink jigs, and live grunts or threadfins.
Big fat fish.
Big fat fish.
Is what we want.
It's no big deal.
It's no big deal.
That's right.
All right, coming up next on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're venturing into the Real Legends Central East region. So stay tuned, and we will be right back with those big fat fish.
Big fat fish.
Boom. Yeah.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Shallow Sport. Penn. Let the battle begin. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Today's power pole tip of the week is becoming more stealth with your poles. Now guys, think about this. We have 3 speeds on our power poles, and the one thing that we need to understand is that we can manipulate those speeds. We can go fast, medium, or stealth mode. Now whenever I'm making a move from an oyster bar over to a point, and I know I'm only gonna pick up the poles a few inches at a time, I simply click it into the stealth mode so that I can keep the noise level down to a very, very quiet approach. Now, you guys that love to bass fish and you're fishing fish that are on beds, that approach is the same thing. Make sure that you go into the stealth mode so that you can sneak up on those beds, put your poles down, and the bass doesn't know you're there. Keep in mind that by simply manipulating the speeds through your multifunction switch or through the app using the key fob, this will make a great approach. And that's today's Power Pole Tip of the Week.
Well, that was just wonderful, Rick. Miss seeing you on those Power Pole tips up
I
there.
saw all that hair on my face. I felt like I was part of the Lion King, that orangutan, you know, all that hair growing on my face.
Baboon?
The baboon.
Okay, that's called, he's Rafiki.
Okay.
Just do some Disney
Thank you
knowledge
for
right now.
keeping that
You're
clear.
welcome. Captain Jim Ross has the Real Legends Central East Region report ready to go. Without further ado, close us on out, Jim.
Oh yeah, we do. You know, our Central East anglers really haven't been chasing grouper. They're not open yet, just like everywhere else on the East Coast, but we're getting ready to, because it all changed May 1st. That's when everybody gets out there and goes and catches some of those big groupers. And we have got some giants in the Central East region. Most of our fish are on the 140 to 250 foot wrecks and reefs. And you can get them by vertical jigging, you can get them by using deep jigs, or you can use a live baits. Get your R&R tackle, sabiki rigs out and get yourself some pinfish or croakers or blue runners or sardines. All of those make great baits for grouper. Blue runners and croakers in particular seem to be the two better ones around here. Most of ours are running in that 20 to 35 pound range. Most of our fish are big over here on this part of the coast. We don't seem to be getting a lot of juveniles right now. So when you get one, you better put some MAN on yourself. I'm rubbing in real good because it's going to take a lot of man to get them things out of those holes. Here's something interesting though, talking about vertical jigs. I've got a picture here. If somebody gave me 30 guesses at what was going to hit this vertical jig the other day that we had on the boat, that would have been about my 45th guess.
That would have been your 30th guess. Golly, that's unbelievable, bub.
Crazy. So you just never know what's going to come up off of some of these reefs and wrecks. So be ready, but sometimes you get some good tasting ones like this one. You know, speaking of other good tasting fish, right now the blackfin tuna bite is still pretty good in our region. At least it was right before this blow. We're gonna see what happens after this blow. I think we may push some of those blackfins out and the dolphin may come running in. But for now, the blackfins were there. You want to look for packs of birds, even on the west side of the Gulf Stream. But the east side, the 70 to 95 mile mark, a lot of blackfins mixed in with the yellowfins. Even on this side though, we've had some birds working, especially frigate birds, on some of those rips and color changes and temperature breaks. Small dark colored lures seem to work best over a smaller medium ballyhoo. And you can pull near any kind of floating debris and generally find one. Now, I talked with Captain Dave Carruthers out of Ponce Inlet, and he caught this nice blackfin tuna with one of his charters. And you can get a hold of Dave at strippinlipscharters.com and get out there and try and catch some of these nice fish with him as well. Going inshore, Rick, black drum. We've still got a lot of black drum feeding around the mangrove shorelines, docks, and rocky areas throughout the region, especially the Banana and Indian rivers from about the Piney to Causeway north to Titusville. Cut blue crab and live blue crab or small fiddler crabs are all working well. And there's small pods of fish out on the flats that you can sight cast to in less than 2 feet of water with some live shrimp and a split shot rig or on a jig head, like one of those little R&R quarter ounce or half ounce little bucktails. Look for swirls and pushes that indicate that the schools are there, and then ease in there. And like I said, just a simple 1/0 or 2/0 circle hook with a shrimp on it, tail hook, is all you need to get these things. I've got a picture here of Don and Elizabeth Carlo with a nice one they caught the other day, right there in the Port St. John area. All and then, you know what? Last species, redfish. Power pole down, boys and girls. Power poles is what it takes right now, because the fish are being super spooky with all this high pressure that we've had, and the water is really clear in a lot of places, and the fish have been super touchy. Once you find them, you're going to find that you're going to be able to sneak in by using your power pole on the lowest setting. In fact, Rick was just talking about that in the tip of the week. You want to put it on the lowest setting or the slowest setting because it makes less noise, and you can slip in on these fish, power pole down, and make live casts. The same baits, live shrimp and cut crab, are working for the black drum. And then just slightly drag it. Don't fish this, don't swim it. You want to drag it along the bottom. The fish will see it, they'll come over, they'll pick it up. That little crawling presentation has been deadly. And I got Bill Reichert out the other day. Now, Bill's been out with a lot of different captains, and Bill is 46 years old, and he's been trying to catch redfish for a long time. He finally got his first redfish with me the other day, and it was one of those things where, you know, I was glad that it happened, but Bill almost couldn't believe it happened. And you can look by the expression on his face in this photo that he just couldn't believe. He was just like, I'm just can't believe I'm holding a redfish.
No,
that's so awesome. Way to go, Jim. Yeah, way to go, man.
Both of you.
Making
but
memories.
We got it done for him.
Making memories, just like you always say there, big boy.
Memory. We're catching
the memories.
Gotta
That's
catch
right.
that memory.
All right, bud. Thank you for batting clean up for us tonight. We appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots from Central West Region. He says inshore, black drum along the Clinker Islands and also in Haulover Canal between the Indian and Mosquito Lagoons. Cut crab or live shrimp should get the bite done. And then offshore, look for the cobias on the reefs and the wrecks in 60 to 90 foot depths. Use live bait on a knocker rig and 10 to 15 feet above the structure.
All right, well, your grouper reports are in along with your
get you some MAN.
Weekend fish cast. I was gonna say that, but we have an exciting show coming up next week with a species I'm 150,000% sure everyone loves to catch. So let's see if you can guess what it is after the break. We'll be right back.
We also got live audience.
That too. That'll be fun. Well, if you guessed it, congratulations. Next week we are talking snook. Woo, I'm so excited. It's my favorite inshore. Sorry, Rick, it's not reds, but they're my second favorite.
I'm cool with it.
And cool with it. And we have a live audience next week too, so that'll be fun.
We still got a few places left if somebody wants to go.
We do. Go on and register on our website. We'll see you next week. Go out there and catch those fish. Bye, guys. See you next week.